Let's talk about it.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Thicc Radio, the gaming podcast where we talk about gaming and everything in its orbit. I'm James.
And I'm Tim. Let's get into it. Today we're joined by a special guest. You know them, you love them. It's Max.
Yay!
Hello! Hey, gorgeous.
Hello, gorgeous. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm doing great. How about you guys?
I'm
Doing good.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure of mine. You're already doing a great job, so I was very pleased to join you and to be a lovely company, a lovely guest on your podcast, basically.
Oh, well, very keen to have you here. You and I have spoken for years. We're good friends and very keen just to explore more about you and the cultural side of life for you, which is the theme of today's episode. We're exploring Russia, basically, because, as gainers, obviously, a lot of us tend to live in the West. A lot of us tend to focus on gainers who live in the West, and there's this English-speaking majority. And I don't know, I've always found it curious that there are so many fat cultures and fat people who don't necessarily speak English as their first language, and, they're not necessarily based in the West. And I don't know, you and I have spoken about this, Tim. We kind of want to do some episodes that are really focused on these regions in the world where there's not a lot of light shone on the gaming community, so to say, in that part of the world. So that's what we're here to talk about today. So how are you feeling? Are you feeling ready to get into it?
I'm totally ready. Let's get to it.
Fantastic. Well then, let's kick off with some basics. So tell us about where you're from and tell us about what the day-to-day culture is like.
Well, I'm from Moscow, Russia, from the capital of Russia, basically. The day-to-day life of, I guess, the average Russian, let's say, a gay guy or just any guy, is basically people wake up, go to work, do the stuff, and yada, yada, yada. So basically, it's hectic. And sometimes, it can be a little bit crazy because people could be, a little bit standoffish or maybe rude at times, but it happens very seldom. I don't experience these kind of things very often. I just want to say that sometimes people in specifically in our city may be very I don't know, I don't want to say egoistic, but perhaps self-centered, if I do say so myself. And sometimes it could be off-putting, especially for other people who are not from Moscow specifically, because sometimes people get some kind of a stereotype that all the people from Moscow are like being bitchy, being arrogant, etc., etc. And most of the time it's not like that. So it's what it's like. The life in the capital sometimes makes you to run faster, to be like a little hamster in a cage. And you have to move on. You have to pay your bills and do shit for a living. Yeah, just like that.
So it's basically like any major city anywhere else in the world. I mean, over here in the United States or over in the UK, any major city, it's living in them is like that. I don't live in like downtown of my city proper. I'm right on the outskirts, but I still consider it city living.
Mm-hmm. Totally, absolutely correct. And right now, actually, fun fact, I don't live in Moscow specifically. So I live in a Moscow region. I'm a happy owner of my own flat. I got my flat ready the last November. So finally and luckily, I live on my own and independently. And most of the times, I would say not most of the times, but it's a common rule that the flats and apartments specifically in Moscow they cost hella crazy. So in order to to make it more strategic and save a little bit of money, my parents and I we have decided to buy a flat for me. Let's say near the Moscow, but factually it's like Moscow, but documentally it's not Moscow. So I'm also let's say a suburban person per se, but I live not very far from from Moscow, in fact.
So I'm kind of curious because I would imagine that living in the capital city, it's similar to what it's like for me. I live in London, but they often say, yeah, you can come to the UK and you can go to London, but life in London is not like everywhere else in the UK. London is specifically London. It's its own beast. The experience of England, Scotland, Wales, the UK in general is very much what life is like outside of the capital city. So if that's the same with Russia and Moscow, what would you say life is like in the wider Russia outside of that?
I would say it's more I don't want to say, well, in some cities, not cities, towns specifically, it might be a little bit rough because our government does not put a lot of financial support to other towns. That is why most of the people are moving out specifically to Moscow in order to to earn more money, to get higher education, to get more possibilities for their self-realization and for some for building your family. And you got the memo, you got the idea. Yeah. Basically. And yeah, since the possibilities are limited in other towns, people sometimes, may struggle with the job application. Yes, once again with the possibilities, but at the same time, it's more chill. People are more grounded, more soulful, more joyful. Because most of my childhood I spent in a town called Kaluga, and it's I guess it's 200 or 300 kilometers from Moscow. It's basically 2 or 3 hours by driving a car. So it's a nice place. Basically, it's not highly developed like obviously like our capital, but at the same time people are more kind and more open and basically soulful. And sometimes it just be like that sometimes. So people are more more open and more kind and more genuine. That's what I'm trying to say.
What do you think one of the biggest misconceptions about Russia is?
Well, let's say when I get in touch with people who are basically not from Russia or not from the countries who are surrounded by Russia, let's say United Kingdom, Mexico, basically, Australia and USA, United States, basically, people are wondering what it's like to be a gay guy or a LGBTQ representative in Russia, because sometimes the media paints a very horrible picture that it's it's like sort of horrible conditions and it's unbearable to live here. What I'm trying to say, it's bearable when you are basically a closeted person, when you don't share with some people that you are, let's say, a gay or lesbian, and etc., etc. When you basically are a closeted person. But at the same time, the people who are surrounded by you are very different. For instance, my mom knows that I'm a gay person. So, of course, she was thinking and she was realizing that at the time when I was, let's say, from the 14th to the 17th years old. So she probably got the hint. But at the same time, my dad doesn't know that. And he is very against of that. And I know that our relationships they would hit the rocks. They would get extremely difficult, and and things like that, because he is a person who, just like my mom, they were born and raised in the Soviet Union, and most of the time when the common difficulty, the common issue that we have in Russia is because the politics, once again, they prohibit quote unquote propaganda of LGBTQ culture and things like that. But people could label anything that is related to LGBTQ as propaganda, even though if you just like talk random stuff about it, so you're not able to speak freely about it most of the time, because people can treat it that way. That is why the media right now, we are doing some steps. The artists, the musicians, independent indie creators, they are open, they are vocal, we are talking about this issue and about this topic a lot. Plus we have a Gen Zs that are more supported, that are more understanding, because they have an access to the internet, and the younger generation is more acceptive and understanding basically. And the key issue that we do have is it's a political interfering in that kind of lifestyle, and also the religion, because unfortunately our religion does not allow it, even though the God said to love your neighbor as yourself, or things like that. So, and that is why people from all the generation are most of the time are against it, and that is why we have issues with it right now. Plus it's this basically idea, or I don't want to say mindset. Yes, it's this mindset is brought up to a younger generation, and that's the common fight that we do actually have and we struggle with. But my idea and my philosophy is the following: just be yourself and be a good representation first of all of yourself as a person. Be a nice human being, and people would not see you specifically as let's say in my case as a gay guy. I represent myself, and when the people know that I'm a good and kind-hearted guy, they don't the matter of me being, let's say, a gay person, a gainer, or a makeup artist, a faggot, they are down with it, because they know that I'm a adequate person first of all. And that's what we should focus right now in order to move forward.
So it sounds like the biggest misconception is that there's misunderstandings across the board, and that there are genuinely people in the country making an effort to better understand things like the LGBT situation. Would that be right?
Yes, correct. Because sometimes people from abroad, they think that it's some kind of a prison, or that it's like a living hell. And well, it's not that pleasant, I have to say. It's not that very good that you cannot hold hands in public or kiss someone in public who are the same sex as you, because it may be used as a sort of propaganda, even though it's your fucking business. What I'm trying to say is that we have limitations.
Yeah.
We have the limits, that we are not able to talk about it freely, because you can lose your job if your, let's say, management is homophobic, or it's a risk if you one way or another open up to your family or your colleagues, or some kind of a society, let's say classmates, group mates, because it may lead to not pleasant consequences. So it's always a point of risk if you want to go for it, and if you feel deep down in your soul that these people would accept you. Like in my case, all of my friends know that I'm first of all a gay person, and second of all that I'm related to a gaming scene, that I'm a part of gaming scene first of all, and they know that deep down I'm once again adequate person, that I'm a kind one, that I'm supportive one, that I'm first of all a good guy and a good friend. They don't pay attention to it. So yes, we are right now in our country is in a big process of trying to move forward and trying to change something, even though our government uh, does the opposite.
So, what is the culture like regarding being a fat person in Russia?
Well, let's say it's the same thing. I don't want to say it's the same thing, completely the same as being a gay person, but it could be. I have some experiences or some stories from my friends that are not able. Let's say the girls and the guys. Some of them they do have an excessive weight, and some of them treat themselves like they are not beautiful, that they are quote unquote ugly or not attractive. And I told them that, hey, find a peace in yourself first. If you can't love yourself, how the hell are you gonna love somebody else? As things like that. So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes from the childhood, this also this idea of fat is not happy, attractive, or healthy, etc., etc. It's it's one way or another brought up or getting stuck in your head, and it takes an effort to get through this state of mind and idea, or you got the memo basically, and feel free and feel unapologetic first of all for being who you are. Of course, when I have this converse with my parents regarding my weight and regarding my yes, my weight basically, I don't want to tell them that, hey, I am a gainer, or hey, I am attracted to chubbier people and things like that, because I know that there should be a borderline of me not showcasing them everything about myself. So what I'm trying to tell them is that I'm fully aware, and I know about the consequences. I know the things that may happen and may appear with me, on, well, let's say, with me having this kind of lifestyle. Yes, and I'm trying to combat their questions or their worries or things like that basically.
It's kind of funny how a lot of times people who come at us with this kind of thing, like, oh, I worry about your health. I worry about, are you going to be around? You're doing things that are harmful to yourself. Like James and I had the discussion several episodes ago, I think, about how like there are people who will tell you that, and sometimes it is genuinely coming from a place of love, and that's usually like your family members, because they don't want to see anything bad happen to you. And then there are times when it's like someone's trying to serve their own personal agenda for you.
Mm-hmm.
But like we've all experienced that.
Yeah, for sure. What I'm trying to say is that when they saying their concerns, I'm trying to combat it by saying that I'm aware. And most of the time, some people, they have this stigma in their head, and it's it's already seeded so deeply in their heads, like it's not attractive, or you cannot be happy or sexy or attractive while being a chubby person. I would give kind of example from my own experience. I have a friend which is a drag queen. Her name is Monica, and she had sort of a performance. And when we were outside with other people, I told someone that I do have a harness, and that I do something like I may. Well, I was joking around saying that if I would like to, I can fully undress right now, and I would feel sexy as hell. And some people tried to tell me that I'm being wrong, and trying to convince me, or trying to get me to thinking that I'm not attractive. And I was like, no, it's not working that way, because I know myself. I know that I define myself attractive, and that's the thing that I'm right now are struggling with my parents. I'm trying to tell them that, hey, you may think that I'm not attractive because I have excessive weight, but it's my life, it's my vision, it's my opinions. And yes, I do find myself attractive. If I could clone myself, I would have a sex with myself, basically. And I don't give a flying hell about their opinions. And that's the fact. The issue that I do have right now with our society, well, let's say in Russia, if we had, this kind of question, is that some people, the upbringing or the parents, the society, the friends, some of them from the early age may, see this stigma that fat is not happy, fat is not sexy, chubby is not attractive. And what I'm trying to tell people that, hey, the only thing that matters is you, is your happiness, is your self-confidence. And just, be conscious, be, aware of what's going on with your body. Just check up, and that's the only matters. Just don't do drugs because it's not healthy. Just don't go full on crazy. That's the whole idea. And practice safe sex, because it's also an important topic. Because that's what I'm trying to tell everyone. Just be yourself. Just be who you are, and give zero fucks about what other people think. Because people, it's the big issue that we also have in Russia, that society is trying to to set a sort of a set of norms, a set of standards. And one of these standards is that fat is not attractive. And right now, at the 21st century, us, not a society in Russia, but in general, we have to be vocal, and we have to educate people on, saying that, hey, who said that? Who defines these rules?
I do want to ask, just to put it out there, what kind of resources are there for bigger people in Russia, like in terms of clothing mainly? Because I know that here in the UK, like there's fast fashion, of course, which is the main place people tend to get clothing from, but that tends to cap out at a classically large size. So anyone XL or larger has a progressively limited number of stores that they can really find clothing, one that fits them, but also clothing that flatters and looks good on a larger body. So what's available in Russia?
Same shit up in here, because if we let's say review fast fashion like H&M, Bershka, and other shops, the limit is basically L and XL, basically, and that's the reality. If we take for consideration, let's say not a fast fashion, but for instance, no-named shops, some of them, they may have a bigger sizes. Some of the time people purchase larger clothes. Let's say we have markets, we have clothing markets, and most of the time, some of the time, it's clothing that are that were made in China, and partially some of them it's a knockoff, but with the larger sizes, like let's say fake Lacoste, Gucci, and things like that. And this kind of low quality clothing markets, some of them, they can offer a bigger clothing sizes, or let's say a no-named shops that they may cater, let's say, up to 3XL. But after the 3XL, it's specifically like a large shops, for a large people.
Like a big and tall type of situation.
Yeah, big and tall. Okay. Yeah, that's the T. I know that some people are, purchasing, let's say, fashionable clothing from Asus or Asus Plus, though. And some of them perhaps, and the same thing goes from other marketplaces from Russia and all over the world. So that's the main thing, how people cope with that issue, basically.
So I kind of want to ask, what is the gaining culture like in Russia, and how does it differ from the sort of main gaining cultural vibe that the rest of the world sees and engages in?
Well, it would be shady of me to say that Russian gaming culture is not existent. It would be,
I live in
a
Cleveland,
bit
and it's pretty
shady.
much non-existent here too. So don't feel bad.
So we've discovered today Russia is actually Cleveland, but bigger.
Yeah, I would not disagree. Honestly, I really would not disagree. I'm sure the climate is pretty similar too.
Facts here on the podcast. Russia is Cleveland. Facts are facts. Boom.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that I was 14 when I basically found out about gaming, and at that time it was poor. And when I say poor, I mean fucking poor. Like several people, some of them are like faces profiles, just like I was at that time, and you don't even know what are your first steps, what you have to do with all of that. You start communicating with other people. Some of them, they are, let's say, a real lifetime gainers, let's say active gainers. Some of them are wannabe, some of them are passive gainers. And yeah, what I'm we don't have any kind of cliques, every person by their own. Some of them, they have kind of pleasant relationships and friendships, but at the same time the amount of let's say quote unquote gainers or active encouragers is very limited. That is why yes, even 10 or 11 years later, it's still not big enough or not developed enough. Or some people, they may sound, or they may act themselves once again a little bit arrogant. There are some good people here, I'm not gonna lie, but at the same time I don't think that we have this sense of a community yet. We have individuals that interact with each other. Maybe some of them have let's say friendships or good relationships, but as a community, as people like supporting each other, and I don't see any development yet, but we do have some, a good and positive signs of, moving forward.
So I had a question. We're all fat boys, and I love to learn about, different things in different parts of the world. So I want to know from you, what is your favorite, like, Russian snack? What's your favorite Russian drink? What's your favorite Russian meal?
Oh yeah, like what are we sleeping on? What recipe do we need to know?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. I was thinking about this question a lot yesterday and today, actually. Well, I would say something like the thing that I like, let's say for breakfast, specifically in Russia, would be something like it's called curd pancakes. It's basically
Oh, pancakes.
yeah, not just like American pancakes or usual pancakes. It's just like specifically made out of curd, and they are very
What?
yummy. I would not say that they are much fattening or things like that, but they are pretty nice, and with some extra sugar or jam, it's very tasty.
Yeah.
The Russian pancakes are very very yummy, and some people could eat a lot of them, actually. The toppings are the same. You can use let's say chocolate syrup or maple syrup or sugar or jam. Works every time. But there is a difference between American one, the thick one, and our pancakes are more like slim. And
So are they like crepes? Are they like a French crepe?
and not the crepes. It's like a very thin kind of pancakes. I will drop a pic to James and to you, so you would get the whole idea of how it should look like.
Yeah.
Listeners, we will put up some pictures on the pod when this episode comes out, so you can get an exact idea of what these delicious things look like. So Russian pancakes, cute, love that. Was there anything else that came to mind food-wise?
Well, sometimes in schools, at universities, and some people practice, let's say, hot sandwiches or hot cheese. Well, it consists of, a bread mayonnaise with mashed garlic. Let's say also sausages. Basically a cutted sausages, topped with a slice of tomato, and you may add, a little bit spice to it, and you put it in the oven, and you basically have, hot sandwiches. And yeah, they're very yummy, and yeah, it was one of my favorite snacks from my childhood, basically.
Nice. Is there like a because obviously like you've got Coca-Cola and lemon and various brands of lemonade. Like in Scotland, they've got this drink called Iron Brew, which is kind of like a creaming soda, but very, very delicious. Is there like a Russian local like drink that is like, this is the drink of Russia, this is the flavor and everyone loves it?
We have a classical lemonade. We have a fairy tale, the Russian fairy tale, which is called Buratino. And it's like, let's say, a classical lemonade, but, it has its own vibe. It has its own, aesthetic. And the other one is called Tarhun. It's this one is more like let's say, a grassy one. Bless you.
I'm just grassy lemonade, like
grass. Yeah, I can't really think of grass as being like a good flavor for.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I can think of like that period in high school when everyone was like an anime fan and full weeaboo trash. People started fully getting into like cucumber flavored soft drinks, and I was always like, I can't imagine cucumber as a flavor. But you actually get into the taste of it after a while, and then you start to think like, oh, there are certain soft drinks you drink because it's sweet. There are certain soft drinks that you drink because they're actually a bit savory, and they actually go with different things, which is funny. But
I never got used to the flavor of cucumber, because there was a bit of a craze with like alcoholic drinks where everybody was adding like this cucumber flavored vodka or gin or like a liqueur to everything to make it refreshing, because it was a summertime drink. And I hated it because I'm like, it tastes like a salad, and I don't want to drink a salad. Like, I don't want to drink a salad. If I'm going to drink something, it has to be like burn the back of my throat strong, or it has to be so friggin' sweet that it's sticking my teeth together.
Well, it's bearable. I have to say that it's bearable because Tarhun is something like something like a mint, but it's not aggressive.
Mm-hmm. So, as a point of query, because obviously we're talking about your gaining journey a little bit as well, like what public figures in Russia, the kind of plus-sized ones, maybe inspired your own gaining journey? Like, who are some of the people, Russian references that you looked to when you were younger that made you go, I like that. I like that bigger body?
Well, to be perfectly honest, none of them. Well, that's the truth. That's the tea. Because I got the inspiration, and well, I would it be correct if I would say that it was my ex-classmate, my first crush?
Yeah, listen,
yeah.
Hey, we
that was the same case for a lot of us.
Yeah, a lot of games.
I think so. I think so, because he was chubby. He was, I don't want to say he was a himbo, but it was, some sense of masculinity from him, and and I don't know. I always got driven by it, and low-key, I wanted something for myself. I don't know, in a sexual level, and. He is not, a public figure by any means, but it was kind of fun. It was very cute, and in addition to that, the emergence of people who used to post videos on Grommr back 11 or 10 years ago. That was the way I came to conclusion, or just like found out that the gaming is a thing and it exists and things like that. So I would say a nod or a big thank you to the people who used to be in the scene for such a long period of time. Like I could not, I remember some kind of specific. Oh, SF got muscle. Do you know about this guy?
Oh yeah, he's the emperor of the gaming world. He's like the granddaddy of them all.
Or the Brosidon, if you know this one.
Oh yeah,
Poseidon, yes.
Poseidon. Yeah, I've met him before. I'm friends with his one of his. They're not together anymore, but with his ex-partner.
I guess these are the two that came instantly in my head, I guess. Or a growing capster, the one that used to, have a profile, then quit, then have a profile, then quit.
Yeah, we talked about that before. The guys that kind of appear and disappear with the wind. There's been quite a lot of that over the years, but
he was one of the hottest in the scene. So he is, a hottie.
That's understandable. I mean, it's kind of answering my next question, which is like, who are some Russians that we should look at? But obviously there's none of them. Although,
well,
everyone, if you like Eurovision or if you don't, a Russian band called Little Big, we're going to do an entry back in 2020 with a song called Uno, and there was this dancing chub who was voguing and cat a cow, and in one of the beats of the song, this like spherical looking man death drops to the floor. It's fantastic. We're gonna have to put that up on the page for people to see.
I was gonna say, isn't that bodybuilder that everybody's thirsting over on TikTok that put on a ton of weight? Isn't he originally from Russia? I know he's over here in the US now, but I think
he's or something like that.
He is from Russia, and I don't remember his his nickname or his tag name, but yes, he is originally from Russia, and yes, I am aware. I have seen his page, and I do aware that many of guys are basically lusting over him, I guess.
Well, I mean, it was such a significant gain, it was kind of hard not to notice. I mean, I understand that he's a heterosexual man, so that's, there's the end of the story for me, but I can't help that I certainly like the aesthetic that he is putting on these days.
On a more fun-related note, Max, my darling, I want to ask you this.
Yeah.
How do you call someone a fat slut in Russian?
Well, I would gladly call you a жирная свинья or something like that. Or жиртрес, something like that. It's like a fat pig.
Yeah, like, so what is the phrase? Teach us how to say that. What is the phrase?
So it starts with a j, like it's like a b, like j. So it's j. Then basically the fat in Russian is жир.
J.
No, жир is the complete word.
Жил.
With an R at the end of it?
Yes, with a more like more.
I can't roll my tongue, so I'm screwed.
Just imagine that you are a Nicki Minaj. It's easy.
Okay.
No, I seriously cannot roll my tongue. That's why I can't speak Spanish, because it would just sound ridiculous if I tried.
Okay, so zhr is fat in Russian?
Let's say жир. Just жир. Жир is like fat in Russian.
Okay.
So the complete word will be жирный. It's like a fat, but in a male version, like жирный.
Жирный.
Yeah, correct, completely. Well, let's say I want to call you a fat pig, so I would say жирный свин.
Жирный свин.
Yes, correct. That's the T.
Свин. I love that. So there you go, to all the жирный свин. Yes.
Well, in Russia there are plurals and some grammar. It's a bit complicated. I would say something like для fuck.
That's okay.
Let me rephrase that. Для жирных кабанов, if we, because для жирных свиней it's not that hot, but for для жирных кабанов it's more like more frisky, if you will. So кабан is basically a hog in Russian.
Oh, кабан, love it.
Yeah.
Oh, you kабан.
Oh my God.
You like the way that tastes in your mouth, don't you, James?
Kebab.
Is that the only thing that he likes to taste?
It gives a new meaning to Barry White and the Copacabana.
Oh my God.
I'll cop a caban in my face. Thank you.
Oh my God.
I knew,
and I'm supposed to be the slut.
thank you. I'm just horrible. I'm just horrible.
You're just a himbo.
Just to him, exactly. So I want to put it out there to you. What kind of changes would you want to see in the Russian gaming community?
I would like to see first of all, I would like to see some new faces because, for the past at least 6 years, it's been the same old. But on the other hand, I've met some new people the last summer and I didn't know about their existence. So I guess that once again, it's a good sign that there are, more people appear, more people become more, visible and open for communication. That's the good thing. I still crave more. I still want more. Like I'm the Britney from 2007. Give me more and things like that.
So listen, people, give her more. You can hear the wish list here on today's episode. Mac, she's asking for any Russians out there who are gainers and you're not on Grommr and you're not interacting. Bitch, get on.
I mean, just doing a quick search on Grommr for Moscow. I mean, there are people on, but I mean, it is a lot of blank profiles. Just like at a glance, there are far fewer people willing to sort of be out and about with it.
You don't even have an idea. We have 2 straight girls from whatever reason, and some of them are fake. She uses, the wrong photos and the wrong information, which is, very sketchy for me. But never mind. Some of them are like, well, they've been there, done that, and things like that. What I'm trying to say is that I want to see new people. I want to see new faces. The ones that would like to, to be open for communication, to share their story, share, their something extra, something more than, ooh, look at me, or, oh, I like your body. Because the thing that is sometimes, I think that what we have developed as individuals in our scene for the past 10 years is that people are moved something like, ooh, I like your belly, ooh, and things like that. We are more than just like, this kind of stereotypical talks, or, ooh, how is your belly? It's more than that. First of all, we're humans. So let's talk. Let's converse or conversate, referencing Jujubee right now from season 2.
So there you go. So let's have more people actively engaging, and let's have more people engaging in a friendly and platonic way, and getting to know each other. I think that's quite a reasonable request to put out there into the world.
Yeah, and add some individual, more, something personal, something more individual. Give us more individuality, because it's like when there are a lot of faceless profiles and with no background, with no interest, without any communication. I can understand this also side, because people are, it's the same thing with being a gainer, being related to a scene. Some people, they are in the closet for having this kink, and I do understand. But at the same time, we have 2 developing platforms like Twitter and Instagram, where people can develop connections and friendships, and there are a lot of possibilities. So I guess that at this moment we should share stories, be ourselves, and be social at our best.
There's one listener question just before we wrap up for the evening. The listener writes, I have a Russian stepmother. Based on my experiences with her, I'm curious to know if gaming is more accepted in Russia compared to here in the West. So maybe that one's a bit difficult to for us to answer, because Tim and I haven't been to Russia and you've not been out to the West. But based on what you said before, I take it that, much like in the West, there's not a huge culture about fat acceptance, that acceptance of bigger bodies and bigger persons is probably more tied to the individual. Is that right?
Completely. So, like I said, in our culture, all the generations try to equalize or make equal things like fat is not happy or fat is not healthy. So once again, I have not had some stories when from people who are related to a scene that they were saying that like when people come out as gainers or related to a gaining scene, people have conflicts or arguments with the closest one. They eventually come out and have everything right, or they don't come out, never. They just don't do that. And I guess that at the point when people they feel confident enough in themselves, yes, they do come out, and the closest people who are once again understanding and the real one, the realest bitches, if I would like to call them, they would stick with you regardless if you are in the gaining scene or not. And if they won't, well, fuck them. And even if it's related to a family in this specific case, well, okay, you don't accept it, whatever, and people move on. Like, okay, you don't accept it, but what you have to do? Because at that point, people, when they come to realization that they don't want to hide it, they are independent and they don't need anyone's acceptance, if I do say so myself. It's like the same thing with my parents, for instance. Yeah, they may notice that I put on some weight, but I tell them, okay, you may be pro or you may be against of it, and it's understandable. But at the same time, I don't make others' lives more difficult by me gaining a weight. So what is the problem if I supervise? Well, I don't, but I don't care. What is the problem? So I guess that at one point you go for this step and go for all the risks and you don't care for the consequences, or you just stay in closet and just wait for a better moment when you can fully accept it for yourself.
There you go then.
There's something that I was curious about, and I'm going to be careful about how I word this because I don't want to come off as like it being disrespectful, but it kind of does sort of lean into a stereotype. I feel like in the West, we tend to look at like Eastern cultures as being like, okay, that there's a lot put into what we would call the peasant stock, quote unquote. And it's like, we think of other cultures in some places being as like, so if you're a bigger person, like that equals like more confidence, more power, more masculinity, more affluence. Like, people who are bigger, they have more money because they're able to have bigger access to food and everything. And I know that your country has had a very tumultuous history and has gone through 2 world wars and the revolution and everything. And so like is that not the case anymore? Is like being a bigger person not really seen as a good thing because it's no longer seen as like, oh, this person is affluent, this person has power, they have control?
I would say something like it may it could be relatable for 100 years ago, but since even before, I guess, the Soviet Union and after the Soviet Union, it's never been like that. It's it used to be even more strict because when people were in Soviet Union, it was a communism. People forget about they were like very centered on or making a better community and doing lots of input for making the place where you work very, very nice and very successful. And the same goes with your family. It was always centered on how to seem yourself a better person, a successful person, how to reach some kind of a success or approval. And that is why I guess that the key issue that we have as let's say millennials and Gen Z versus Soviet people, that Soviet people used to live by the rules how everyone would react and how everyone would estimate you and how everyone would think about you. When let's say Gen Zs and partially millennials, they realize, well, the reason why I say partially, because some of my friends and some of my people, or people of my age, they still struggle because they have, this already installed mindsets from their parents and from the family. I'm not. I'm, a rebellious kind of shit. And I give zero fucks about what other people think because, well, I'm a whole fucking circus. I used to be, crazy, bright, loud, obnoxious when I was 14. And basically 2.5 years ago, I realized that no one would thank me when I would be, let's say, in a graveyard for living my life for someone else. So what's the point? It's my life, and why I have to live it like everyone would like to see it. So and here and the same aesthetic, the same mindset or the same philosophy carrying right now at Gen Z. And yeah, I guess that that's the key issue that we do have, because our parents used to live, by the idea how neighbors, friends, society, colleagues would react on your behavior, on your actions. And right now people don't care. They care only about themselves and at least the closest ones. I would say that there is some hope. There are some adequate or well-rounded people by any means. So I suppose that the ones that are listening to this podcast, the ones who are who are familiar with Russian culture or who speaks Russian are from our country or the neighbor countries. I just want to stay connected, be yourself, be open for conversation, for communication, and if you need any assistance, if you would like someone to talk to, you have this whole holy grail, holy trio of James and Tim and I. So feel free to reach to us and just vent about your experience being in this scene. I'm sure that all of us are, available for any kind of piece of advice. You may find me on Grommr, or a better place, Instagram at bigdjoocie. It's BIG. Yes, no, just a moment. Let me.
It's okay. I actually have it up here. bigdjoocie spelled BIGDJOOCIE.
Correct. Because it used to be Aisha's erotica track, and I get so inspired by it, and I thought, bigdjoocie sounds interesting. But it would be a very plain and simple just to call myself with the proper spelling. So I just did a wrong spelling on purpose.
And if I may promote you all definitely need to go check him out either on Grommr or Instagram, because it's definitely worth it.
You are being too kind to me.
So there we go. We can find you at bigdjoocie on Instagram and on Grommr, which makes me so very happy. Thank you so much for joining us. That's a wrap for now here on Thicc Radio. Please remember to like and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave a good review. As always, you can find me on Grommr and Instagram at stannnum, and Twitter and YouTube at stannnum.bsky.
And you can find me on Grommr as Orpheus. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter as thiccradio. And of course, you can find more of what we've talked about today on Instagram and Patreon at Thicc Radio. So until next time, bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Let's talk about it.
Thicc Radio is a Patreon and Anchor app podcast produced by Stannnum and Thiccy Mouse.
Mixed and mastered by stannnum.
Our artwork is provided by Lokitu.
Our theme song is provided by Spotify.